Productivity. Gladiator.
I'm Brian Nelson Palmer. On this show, I share personal, practical productivity skills. And in this episode, we're talking about the tasks that we've outsourced to save time and never looked back, both personally and professionally. And with me on the show today is Marcey Rader, who's a speaker, coach, and author on productivity. And she's the founder of Rader Co. Marcey, thanks so much for joining me on the show today.
Oh, I'm excited to talk about outsourcing because everybody can outsource something, and it doesn't matter, even if it work, personal, doesn't matter your position, you can outsource.
God, everything. Personally, professionally, it's available to everybody. I did a TED talk on the value of your time, and like this whole concept, it's all baked into there. And I've been so excited to actually do an episode on this. So thanks for doing with this, Marcey. I'm excited we're doing this together.
Yes.
And so now talk about your background. So we're going to talk about outsourcing and productivity and stuff. So talk about how you're relevant to the topic we're talking about today.
Sure. So Rader Co. has been around for 11 years, and we are a health-powered productivity company. And what that means is that it doesn't matter how many boxes you check off your to-do list if you're losing sleep to do it. It doesn't matter how fast you respond to your emails if you are doing it at dinner with your family and it's affecting your relationships. So it's about being productive for the right things, but without sacrificing your health and relationships. And we work with a lot of companies, both individuals and teams, around their email management, email and chat tool management, their meetings, meeting effectiveness, how to manage their task, and prioritization. But we are always looking at it with that health aspect. Do people take screen-free lunches? Are they, working as if they have to always be available, checking their email at night or on the weekends? And so we are a team that is out to save the world, one meeting and email at a time.
Oh man, Marcey, you and I are so aligned. It's not even funny. So for anyone who's interested in Productivity Gladiator, Marcey is like, yes, absolutely. Everything you just said is exactly the kinds of things. And my whole motivation for me is about you only have one life. So we're going to make you more productive so that you can do more of the things that you love, so that you can have the memories when you look back at the end are not going to be because you were more productive. So you did more work. And so yes. Oh my gosh. Preach.
I do want to preach for a second on that, because you mentioned that you did a TED Talk. I did a TEDx in 2024 called The Relentless Pursuit of More. And it was really about living the first 40 years of my life. I'm 50 years old, being such a high achiever and such a perfectionist that it seriously affected my health. I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's disease, which I believe that I triggered through that. I didn't have a period for 12 years. Because I put myself in such stressful situations. And for the men out there, that's serious. that's not, it sounds like it'd be a great convenience, but it's actually really dangerous for your body.
Oh yeah.
And it really affected my marriage. I traveled 48 weeks a year for almost a decade. We're cool now. We're great. But it was part of the reason why I started my company. And so, there are goals to chase, but not at the expense of someday. Like someday when I get a promotion, then I'll slow down. Or someday when I make X amount of money, then I'll hire somebody to help clean my house. Someday when I run the marathon, then I'll, be home on Saturday mornings. So it's really a reset and, rethink of what our goals and priorities are. And so if you're trying to do everything yourself, know that there is no prize at the end because you did it.
Yes.
And, the prize is that I got to my outcome, whatever that was, in a way that was smarter. And maybe, and I guess this is a good segue for outsourcing, maybe I hired somebody along the way to help me get to that outcome so that I didn't sacrifice other things that were important to me. And I gave this person a job as well.
Mm-hmm. Totally. You know, Marcy, on that topic, I'm curious. You talk about productivity. I talk about productivity. There's a lot of people that talk about productivity. So the one other thing I want to ask you is, what do you think makes you different from everybody else out there that's talking about productivity like we are?
For me, I think part of it is the health piece. My degrees are actually my bachelor's and master's are in exercise science and health promotion. But I worked for 14 years in clinical research in the pharma and biotech world and climbed up the ladder as high as I wanted to go. And so I think having that health background, but also that aspect of being a perfectionist, being a super high achiever, and I'm still, I still have goals, of course, I still have achievements that I want to do, but it's I have put myself in the dumpster and I've been able to get myself out of it. And if I had been someone like 13 years ago, even just 13 years ago, if I had started this business, well, even 5 years ago, the way I approach things are different than I would have 15 years ago, 13 years ago, 10 years ago, because I suffered those things that I did. And it wasn't really until about 4 years ago that my husband told me how desperately he missed me when I was out, jet setting around the country and everything, but he never wanted to tell me because I was the primary earner. And so when I look back, I made a lot of mistakes and I definitely have regrets. And I don't think regrets are bad. I know some people say like, no regrets or whatever. Well, I believe in the book, The Power of Regret. Yep. And regret is where we've learned and earned our lessons, because I believe we earn our battle scars. So it's lessons earned. And I got a lot out of that. And I think it makes me a much better coach and speaker, because I can attest to the things that, it's not all about getting the most done. Just like, it's like when we die, it's not like the person with the most toys wins. It's the things that really matter.
Totally. Well, let's jump into outsourcing then. And one of the things to kind of set the stage, I want to clarify that when I came to this, my thought was, I wanted to clarify, when we say outsource, what are we referring to? And in this case, to me, when I thought this, I'm referring to basically the idea that it's no longer going to take my time. So we're going to talk about outsourcing, and some of these things you might pay for some of these, and some of them might cost more than others, but some of these things are free and it's still outsourced because it's not taking my time. So that was my frame of reference. Did you have anything to add on that?
No, but I'm glad that you clarified it, because when I first started my company, this is so hard to believe that 11 years ago, it was considered like, whoa, what? To hire overseas, to outsource to a virtual assistant, or to hire somebody from Fiverr. And so sometimes when I would use the word outsource back then, people would think it was, like manufacturing, outsourcing product and things like this. And so I'm with you, like outsourcing to me means hiring somebody to save me time doing something that I don't want to be doing, or maybe I'm just not good at.
Yeah, totally. All right. So that's the kind of outsourcing we're talking about. And then I guess I have my frame of reference for how the question is, how do you decide what to outsource? And so for me, I actually have a very methodical approach, which is I have a calculator. So for you listening, if you go to productivitygladiator.com and you scroll down, there is the value of your time calculator, and you can find out what your time is worth. And so that's the TED Talk that I did that was picked by TED, and it became an editor's pick, and they promoted it on their website and socials and stuff. And I talk about kind of the frame of reference for the discussion we're going to have now. We're going to talk very practically on what we outsourced, but the decision on when to outsource it, or where those opportunities are. For me, it's if I know my time is worth this much and I can pay less than that to have somebody else do it, then those are my first opportunities that I'm looking at, as opposed to things that are the other way around. So that's my approach to how do you sort of decide. What is it for you, Marcy?
Yeah. Before I say that, I'm just going to, being picked by TED is a really big deal. So congratulations. Congratulations. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome.
That's pretty good.
And I was so thrown by that I need you to ask me the question again.
No, so that's the question is, how do you decide? Like,
Oh, yes.
how do you make the decision on I should outsource this or I shouldn't outsource this?
Yes. So first of all, that's awesome that you have this calculator. And I have determined, like, I have a set rate hourly. I don't charge by the hour because I believe in value-based pricing. But in my head, I have an hourly rate, and I worked this out with my CFO. And then I also have another rate that is kind of like the this is what my time is worth to me.
Yeah.
And so when it's business related, I think about, like, what's my time worth? Is this person's time worth, going to cost me less? But also, is this something that I only need to do one time? If so, it's not worth it for me to do it. And an example is I'm switching scheduling systems. I'm switching from one scheduling tool to another. To set it up, it is not a good use of my time to go through all the learning modules and do all the setup. I don't need to learn how to set it up. I need to learn how to work it once it's set up. So I hired somebody, I outsourced the setup. She'll set it up, and then she'll just train me how to use it now that it's in place. Because I don't believe in I love learning. I'm number one learner in Strengths Finders, if you know what that means. So it's not that I don't believe in learning. It's that there are certain, like, if it's something that I'm going to learn that I'm going to continue to use, then I want to know the ins and outs of it. But I don't need to know how to learn something that's only going to happen one time if there's an expert that can do it and save me. So that's one way I look at it. I also look at, like, do I hate doing, like, is there something I just don't like doing, or I'm so not good at it and I don't care that I'm not good at it, and I don't even care about becoming better at it. And that is gift wrapping. When I wrap a gift, my gifts at Christmas, people know it's my gift under the tree. It looks like a 5-year-old wrapped it. Like, I don't make the paper long enough. It's so bad. And I like half the box will be showing it, and I'm so frugal that if I make the paper too short, I won't I won't throw it away. I will just use it. Sometimes I'll make like a patch. It is so bad. But I don't care, really, but so I know, but I have actually outsourced gift wrapping
to Amazon. I was going to ask you, I always check the box to gift wrap it for me. It was the best. Everybody knows it's my gift under the tree because it was wrapped by Amazon.
No, I hire somebody. So I have hired a high school student that loves to wrap gifts.
Nice.
And I think I paid her like $50 one year.
Yeah.
And this girl, and she came over and wrapped all my gifts in like,
nice.
It was like an hour or something. I don't even know if I paid her $50. It was probably more like $30. It was so worth it. And they were beautiful,
Yeah.
So that's also a way that I look at it is, do I care about getting better at wrapping gifts? I don't, because I only do it once a year. And she loves it, and she needed the money. So I look at it that way too.
Yeah. So I love what you said about, is it something that you are interested in, or like and I talked about it in my TED Talk too. It's like things that are worth your time are like, are you going to learn something? Is it going to be a fond memory that you look back on forever and ever? Then it is worth the time. Like you could hire somebody to paint the house, or if you do that with your son or your daughter, and that's going to be a memory that you have forever and ever and ever, then it doesn't matter how much it costs to have somebody else do it. You should do that. And so those are like, learn something. Does it bring you joy? Because if it brings you joy, oh my gosh, like every one of the things that we're about to list, every one of the outsourcing opportunities, if it's something that brings you joy, don't outsource that. Outsource the things that don't bring you joy. That's So I love your point, man.
I have it. That brings up a good point. So in my business, it took me a long time to outsource my bookkeeping because I actually really like that. I like going in and reconciling my account, and I do it every Friday, and I like doing it. And after a certain point, I was like, this is not my time is worth more than that. I should not be doing this. But I held on to it for a while because I just really like it. So I agree with you for that. But I thought of one other thing that is another rule for me is this dangerous? Because we just put on a new screened in or put a new roof on our screened in porch. And my husband is very handy, but he also knows his limits. Like if it's plumbing, that is a skilled trade that if he messes up, it could cause a flood or it could be something really bad. An electrician, he's not going to mess with that because that is a skilled trade. And it's almost like an insult to the skilled trade, but also it could be dangerous. I also think of those types of things. Like, could I be doing something that could, if I try to fix something on my car, could it turn around and haunt me later, as I'm stuck by the side of the road?
Nice. I love that the danger point is a really valid one. So let's jump into things that we've outsourced. Let's just start running down. And Marcey, I figure you go first and then I'll share one and you share one. And let's start with personal stuff that we've outsourced and that, like, my gosh, have been game changers. So you first, go ahead. What you got?
Okay. I already said the gift wrapping, which so
nice.
Food prep. So for 4 years, I had a woman until COVID. And then, everything changed during that. But she came in every Thursday. I had a produce box delivered on Thursday mornings, and she would come in and chop all the vegetables for like a week, she chopped everything. And she actually had a degree in culinary arts. So she chopped really well.
Nice.
It looked great. And so I didn't have to, and I really like to eat healthy, but I'm terrible at food chopping. And so she would chop all my vegetables. I've had somebody that would, after her, that would come in and chop everything. And then she'd also make a couple of meals as well, which was, and, so then I would have those to eat throughout the week. But the first woman, she also did our laundry and she cleaned the house too. But a lot of people have house cleaners. That's not a creative way to outsource. It's an awesome way to outsource, but it's not really creative. But a lot of house cleaners don't do food prep and also your laundry. So we called her her title was house manager. And this is what she did full time. She had one house that she went to every day. She came to ours on Thursdays. She would chop vegetables. She'd clean our house. And then she would do our laundry. And this woman folded clothes like the Gap. I mean, it was so perfect. So perfect. And I miss her so much. But that, when I would tell people that, it's like, I have a house manager. Oh, it was amazing.
Oh, man. Marcey, I love that. I'm going to yes and a couple of things on this. First, the cooking thing. I have totally outsourced cooking for years and years. And the reason I did it is because first of all, it's the worth my time thing, and it doesn't bring me joy. I am capable of cooking. I absolutely can do it. And it doesn't bring me joy to be in there and do it. I tend to put it off to the last minute, or I'm like, oh, I'm hungry now, I'm going to eat something. And then you eat unhealthily because you do that. So for you listening, if you haven't checked it out, there's services like Factor 75, which is a meal prep service where they have a 5-star chef make you a meal. It's fresh, never frozen. He cooks it. They put it in a container. They ship it to you in a freezer container, and then it's like a microwave meal that's fresh cooked by a chef, and you can get 6 meals, 8, 10, 12 meals a week or something like that. So if you're one of those people that goes out and eats crappy lunches because you're on the go, or hey, I didn't think about lunch, so then you go down and you go to McDonald's or whatever, it's like $10, $12, $14 a meal, something like that. So it's the same as you would spend going to a fast food place, but it's way healthier. You can lose weight this way. So that's the full service option. They also have, if the cooking brings you joy, but the actual going to the store part doesn't, they have services that you've probably heard of by now, like Blue Apron and stuff like that, where they send you all the ingredients and the recipe, and all you have to do is prep it. That's another way to do it. The latest one that I haven't tried yet, but oh my God, Marcey, I'm excited to try it, is they have a casserole style one where they send you the casserole in a dish, and then you just have to put it in the oven to cook it on the day of or something like that. So anyway, I've gone way down the rabbit hole
No,
on.
I want to add something to that because this
Yeah.
is serious stuff here.
Yeah.
I tried all the like Blue Apron and HelloFresh stuff, but it's still a lot of work because you have to prep all that stuff. So I, for the last like year, have been using Hungry Root. And Hungry Root is one of those delivery services that you pick your meals. Like I picked 4 recipes for the week. And you can choose between 2 servings, 4 servings, 6 servings, 8 servings, I think. But most of the vegetables already come prepped. And some of the meat already is cooked and you just have to like heat it or something. So I don't have to pull out the knife very much. And I love it because it's all fresh, but most of it'll like the peppers are already chopped up or, the cabbage is already shredded. I'm like, it's the go between the HelloFresh, which takes a lot of work, and what you get, which is the, just
Completely
pop it in the microwave.
Yeah.
So I'm a big Hungry Root fan.
Hungry Root. And by the way, for you listening, I'm going to give you links to all this stuff. It's going to take me a minute to get all these in the episode notes, but I am committed to giving you the link to every single thing that we talk about on this. So check your notes if you want to see all of the stuff that we're talking about. Because I'm going to yes and you there, Marcey. The other one that my wife and I found was a service called Gobble. And Gobble was the in-between between your Hungry Root and My Factor, where they chop almost everything, but you do still get to chop one vegetable. So it's and they give you all the sauces already and so all you have to do is throw it in a pan and you have to chop I don't know how they know, but they just know that, if you have to prep too much, it's too much. So we're going to give you one thing to do that exists too.
I probably have to some recipes I might have to chop a cucumber or something with Hungry Root, but I can do that.
Yes, totally. Well, so it's funny, you brought up house cleaning. That was one of mine. House cleaning and laundry. I haven't done my laundry in 10 years, and I don't miss it, and I'm very good at it, but it just isn't worth my time. There's a service called Poplin that I used for years, and it's a wash and fold service, and it's like $1 a pound. So it's the same price as if you went to the laundromat and brought it to them, but they include pickup and delivery, and it's literally like Uber, but for people who love washing and folding laundry. So you put your laundry outside and the laundry fairy or the Uber, the Poplin person comes and picks it up and then they bring it home. And then 24 hours later, they bring it back and it's $1 a pound. That includes the delivery and the pickup. And it smells wonderful and it's folded immaculately, like you said, because these people just love doing laundry. And I loved supporting them doing what they loved with this.
Yes. I know some people find it very meditative. I'm not one of those people, but yeah, that's awesome. I love that service.
And Marcey, the one that I wanted to share that's different from what you've said already is errands. I outsourced errands. I haven't been to the store I think 2012 was the last time I went to the store because I get it all delivered. And man, seriously, I used to go to the store 3, 4, 5 times a week. I added it up. It was roughly 7 hours of my time. So I talked about my little calculator. I went online and I found out right now I value my time at about $30 an hour. It's changed over the years. It's gone from 15 to 30, depending on my financial situation, but there is a number and I know what it is. And so the thing is, the delivery for groceries is free, depending on what you do, or like $5, or it's something very reasonable. So if I can get an hour that's worth $30 to me back for a $5 delivery charge, then I'm totally in. And the one thing that, Marcey, whenever I do these discussions, what we're talking about now is one of my keynote speeches that I give, my presentations, workshops that I do. And whenever I bring this up, the number one thing that you listening might already be saying is, well, they don't pick vegetables as good.
Oh my gosh.
They don't pick
I hear
fruit.
that all the time.
I know. That is the number one objection. It's like, well, they
every
don't
time
know.
I like to pick my own vegetables.
Right. And so here's this is my response to that, which is, first of all, remember what I said, which is if you love going to the store and if picking vegetables brings you more joy than all the other important stuff in your life, then by God, go pick your vegetables. I support you. However, for me, if you think about, you go to the store and you're not quite sure how to pick something, you're going to ask somebody who works at the store, what's the good one to pick? And these people all work at the store. They know what the good ones are. And so for every 30 vegetables that I get, maybe one or possibly two are not going to be as good as the one that I might have picked. But the amount of time that I saved, if I need 3, I will order 4 just so that they'll give me their top 4 and I pick the top 3 from that. And so you accommodate that risk per se, but man, errands are such a time suck. So if you can not run errands, I have so many stories, hilarious stories about not running errands that I love to share. But this is just one that I'm so motivated on errands. Don't run errands.
Yeah. Well, and with the vegetable thing, I knew you were going to say it because I hear that all the time. I've had groceries I don't have them delivered, but I go and pick them up and somebody else shops for them. And again, I would shop the same, just like you said. There has only been like 3 or 4 times where I've had to write to the app and say like, this wasn't good or whatever. And 2 of those times I had asked for a pound of Brussels sprouts and the person put 1 Brussels sprout, a sprout in a bag. In a bag, wrapped the bag, and put it in the cart. And I thought, this person has never eaten a Brussels sprout in their life because they would know that nobody eats 1 sprout. So I took a picture of it, but then I also both times cut the sprout, sauteed it, put a little bit of balsamic over it, put it on a plate, and sent that to the app company as well. And I said, I'm eating my single Brussels sprout. Please train your people better. But yeah, I still have a picture of my Brussels sprout.
And don't stress about every one of these companies that does these grocery deliveries. They build into their whole system the fact that their people are going to screw one up because they didn't pay attention to whatever the serving size was or whatever. So when you go in to report these things, it's not like a long process where you have to call somebody, and then these companies don't even want to talk to you if there's a problem. You can just go in and say, I got this wrong, and they will just give you the credit back and you can order another one. There's no conversation. It's an immediate resolution to your problem in like 20 seconds, 30 seconds.
Yes.
So it is not a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yes, errands. That was my next one. Any what else comes to mind for you on the personal front?
Yeah. Well, I think now I would use ChatGPT for this, at least for part of it. But in the past, I have hired people from Fiverr to create travel itineraries for me in the city where they live.
Nice.
So when we go on vacation, example, I find somebody on Fiverr who lives in San Diego who will create a 4-day itinerary for me. Here's what we like to do. Here's where we're staying. It was very customized for $100.
Awesome.
And you can spend hours researching. And this person even here's a list of gluten-free restaurants in the area where you're going to be on this day. Don't go here because the seals smell. It was so good. Whereas now I think I would outsource to ChatGPT. We are going on a big New Zealand, Australia trip in April, and I will use ChatGPT to help me at least narrow down or give me ideas for me to start with, because you can get lost in travel trying to figure out itineraries.
Completely. I want to yes and you there, because that's literally one of the examples when I do an AI session and we talk about AI for productivity. That's one of the examples that we actually use is you've got 8 hours between the time that you're done on your work travel and the time you have to be at the airport. So what can I do in these 8 hours? So you can feed ChatGPT or whatever AI you use, Claude or Gemini or whatever one you use. You go on there and you type in, I'm at this location. I've got to be at the airport in this many hours. What are the top rated tourist things that I could do in this period of time that would be on the way? And it will do all of that for you. And man, you were trendsetter, Marcy, because I didn't even contemplate like getting somebody in Fiverr to do that. That would be, but when ChatGPT came around, it was like,
Yeah.
oh, this is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It can
Yeah.
find it.
There's actually an app called Gift Star that uses AI, and I've used it. If you put in like I put in my friend Lisa and my husband and different people and get like say their interests and your price range and all these things, it will come back with gifts for them. But like I always choose experiences. You put the zip code that they're in, and it'll come back with links to experiences in that zip code. So that is a way to outsource too, if you don't want to just be, just trying to just fill your holiday shopping that way.
Totally, man. That's I love that use. I've got another one for you, which is, and you alluded to this when you talked about the roof or whatever, but when it comes to home repair, there are services like Thumbtack or Chore Relief or boy, there's one more and I'll put the links in the
TaskRabbit.
TaskRabbit, yes.
Yeah.
That they will go, they'll actually come do the chores. So the latest one is that I was using it to find somebody who would come and repair screens. I had a couple of screens that were damaged in the hurricane. And so, it's one of those things where the screen's flapping free, and I could go buy the screen repair kit and watch the YouTube videos and figure out how to do that. But when you look at how much of my time that's going to take versus how much it would cost, I found out in my area, the going rate for somebody to repair a screen, including all the supplies, is $50. And it was like, sold. I would much rather let you, because I don't have the right tools and I don't know how to use them, and I could learn, but I'm not passionate about screens. I just want the bugs to not come in. So that was so home repair is definitely, there are websites that are dedicated to helping you find people. And for some of the stuff like a screen repair, you talked about licensed stuff. So plumbing or electricians, where that's stuff that it requires a license and there's danger and stuff. Some of the stuff is just, you don't want to do it. Assembling IKEA furniture or installing TV mounts. There's all the stuff you could do around the house, and that you can totally find people to do. And they don't necessarily need a license or some type of, some of the stuff, maybe not insurance, that you can totally do that.
Yeah. And I want to, so first of all, if you are single, like I had a friend who outsourced through TaskRabbit. She bought a big screen TV, and she's like, I can't carry it up the stairs. I need somebody to mount it. And so, she helped him because it was so big, like she needed to hold or whatever. But I think she paid like $30 or somebody but she said, I need somebody to do this. And she didn't have any friends that could help her and things. So that's one thing. But I don't know about the two that you mentioned. I do know about TaskRabbit, so you might want to share. But I like something like that better than Craigslist, because TaskRabbit has reviews, and you're paying through TaskRabbit and not just some rando on Craigslist.
Yes.
And we have had some randos on Craigslist that was like, yeah, this is not good. This is not good. But with TaskRabbit, it has reviews for certain things. There are background checks and things. So I would go with that type of thing, especially if you're having somebody come into your house. And just for the if you're female, one thing I do if I'm by myself and somebody's coming in my house to outsource, no matter who they are and what they're doing, I will often call somebody that I know and say like so-and-so, or text somebody and say, the cable person is here or whatever. Text me every 20 minutes until I tell you they're gone. And then that's just a safety thing for females. I've even called somebody and just had them listening. Like I just had the phone in my pocket while I was, men don't often think, you probably are like, I've never even thought about that before. But my girlfriend, Shane, if there is any kind of man coming into the house to do any kind of service work, we always call, I'll just say text me in 10 minutes or whatever.
Totally.
This
I love
turned
it.
it from outsourcing to safety in your home.
Well, safety, but all of this is part of it, right? You're dealing with
Yes.
somebody you don't know. So I love that you
Yes.
brought that up because you're right. As a guy, I don't think about that as much. And that's something that for all you ladies that are listening, you should still outsource the stuff that you can. And when you do, this is just how you do it. So Marcy's your pro. I love it, Marcy. That's awesome. Let's shift gears and talk about professional stuff now, things that you've outsourced. So what comes to mind for you professionally?
So a lot of people that work for companies think, I can't outsource anything. Wrong answer. So one thing is your PowerPoint presentations. I have seen the most horrible PowerPoint presentations. I used to create the most horrible PowerPoint presentations. People that work in companies, and when I worked in companies, are notorious for putting books on slides. It's nothing but words, and people end up just reading them. They're terrible slides. And a lot of what you put on a slide is not proprietary. And so you could outsource on Fiverr or Upwork or something like that. Give them the information, have somebody put your slides together. And if you did have something, super like a graph that's, proprietary or something like financials or whatever, you can add that later. But there's so much like little tiny like formatting stuff and lots of time wasted for PowerPoints, and you don't need to be doing that. And often, if it's something like, say that you have to present to your board every quarter and it's always the same slide template and all you're doing is, switching numbers in and out or whatever, have somebody do it for you. And then all you're doing is switching stuff out every quarter, and you will look like a rock star. And who cares that you didn't do it? Because when you were hired, you did not say, I am the best at making PowerPoints that you will ever meet. I'm going to be number one at PowerPoints. They don't care about that. It's not about, you're not going to be promoted because of your ability to create the PowerPoint. You're going to be promoted because of what the outcome of the PowerPoint is, the final product. So that's one of my go-tos. Like, you don't need to be doing that.
Gosh, Marcy, I want to yes and you on that, because the other thing, if you don't know how to do this already, it's time for you to go explore the AI tools and figure out how to have the AI tool make the first draft of PowerPoint slides, that kind of thing. Because I agree with you. If this is going to be a public thing that you're going to present for people that are more than we're talking 2 levels or more above you, I would absolutely get a pro slide. It would be worth it to me to spend the $10 on the expense account that you have, or whatever, $15, $20, $30 to have a Fiverr go in and make that thing really look good, because that's going to be your impression. So it's more than 2 people, or if it's going to be very public, absolutely the pro help is good. But for the everyday slides, if you're not good at it, you can totally copy and paste this whole text of this report and say, I need to give a presentation on this report. Please give me slides for this. And AI will create the slides for you. And if you don't know how to do this, this is one of, Marcy and I were talking about Googling or something that you're going to do over and over again that's worth learning. I'm telling you right now, for the rest of your work life, this is one that's worth learning. Make sure you know how to do this one, because it's going to be good.
Yes, and use AI to say, like, this is what's on the slide. These are the different slides. But then hire somebody to make the slides, because AI is not going to make it look good on a slide. But you could have somebody then take that information from Gemini, ChatGPT, or whatever, and then put it on the slide and make it look good.
Totally. I think you're right. That's where a lot of the back and forth is going to be, is if you already know what you want to say on the slides, especially to the text, you know exactly the text that each one's going to have, and they just need to make the slides and make them pretty. That's going to be way more efficient, because most times the back and forth with the people making the slides is going to be, well, I didn't like this on this slide, and you said too much on this slide. And a lot of it is it's the nitty gritty. So how about that point? Good point, Marcy.
Yeah.
And on this one, the one that I was going to share is a virtual assistant. I've had virtual assistants since 2008. I love, love, love being able to outsource. And this is for me personally and professionally. I have them do so much stuff that I don't want to spend my time doing or isn't worth my time doing. But the thing I want to share that I think is helpful context is when we talk about outsourcing, I want to share the three kinds of virtual assistant setups that you can have that are probably helpful for you listening. So the first one is if you've got it's almost like fancyhands.com is the one that I use, but it's a pool of assistants. So I want you to imagine like Uber or Lyft, where you got a bunch of people that are out there that could all do tasks, and you put your task in the queue and somebody, whoever's available, comes and picks it up and does it. Any of that kind of stuff, it's a membership, it's a flat rate. So it's like $30 a month, or you can even get down as little as $18 a month. If you've never hired a virtual assistant before and you're like, God, Brian and Marcey are talking about this and I've never done it before. If you want to know where to start and you want the shallow end, this is the dip your toe in the pool and don't spend too much money. $18 a month for fancyhands.com. You can totally do this and try it. Have them put together a trip itinerary, have them do some of the things that you hear. If they can do it by searching the internet or, being on the phone, that's your place to start. And that's the Uber model. So there's three models. That's model number one is the Uber-like service. The next one is.
Wait, Brian, can I do one thing from Fancy Hands?
Yes.
Can I say one thing? A company that I worked with about 10 years ago, they had a subscription to Fancy Hands, and for their employee of the month or, whoever, they got to use Fancy Hands for that month on anything they wanted. So they could use it for work. I know, isn't that great?
So
they could
good.
use it for work. They could use it to research where to put grandma for her, assisted living, which was something somebody did. They didn't care, but they pulled their team. It was a small company. I think there was like 15 people. And they said, would you rather get a gift certificate somewhere, parking space, or to be able to use Fancy Hands with this many credits a month? And everybody was like, Fancy Hands.
Fancy Hands. Yep.
Isn't that awesome? That was such a great use of. Smart. I know.
Yes. So Fancy Hands is your first one, right? This is where you got credits and it's a fixed cost each month. So you don't have to worry about budget or blowing it or that kind of thing. So that's option number one. Version number two of virtual assistants is where you have it's a fixed price contract. So think about it like Fiverr. Fiverr is where you know exactly what they're going to do and exactly how much money it's going to cost. The same idea is if you're going to have somebody work on your house, you want to get a quote first so that they don't just run up the bill and all of a sudden it's going to be a whole bunch of money. This Fiverr and Fiverr.com is the example that I'll give you, but this is where you know exactly what they're going to do and you know exactly how much it's going to cost. So there's not a risk of running up the bill. So that's your fixed price outsourcing. And then the last one that's worth you knowing if you weren't already aware of this is then it's the pay by the hour, almost like an employee thing. And my favorite resource to start people on for that is called freeup.net. And what they do is they go out and they have interviewed virtual assistants from all over the world. And they pick only the top 1% of the really good ones. And so you go on there and you say, I need somebody who will do this. And it's an ongoing thing you're going to need regularly, and you will just pay somebody to do it. You can have them. They'll give you the top 2 or 3 people that are really good and you can interview them and then you just get started. And it's not an employee, like it's not like hiring somebody full-time. This is just somebody you can outsource to. But that model is one where you pay them for their time. And so that's one where you want to be clear on what they're doing because they can run up the bill because they're going to keep working on all the tasks you give them and they're going to charge you for all the hours that you work. So just wanted to share that.
Yeah, you have to say, spend no more than 2 hours on this task or something like that. Yeah.
Totally. Absolutely. So virtual assistant is one. And on that same topic, for me, actually, having someone do setting up the podcast stuff, it's funny, I'm really missing them right now because like I do these, I host this show. And for the longest time, I had people that would do, it's the nuanced stuff that it takes to crank out an episode. You edit, you need to create the web page, you need the social media posts, make the clips, there's so much of that. And so I've been doing it myself for a little bit. And oh my gosh, in next year, that is one of the first things that I'm doing is I have all of the steps written out. I just need somebody else to do them. So that's one that, man, outsourcing tasks like that, which take a ton of time, and you could pay someone in overseas, maybe the Philippines or India or something like that. They don't have to be the smartest of the smart person if you can lay out the steps. Oh gosh, that's a big one for me.
Yeah.
Any other, what else professionally? Anything else that comes to mind for professional outsourcing?
Professionally, something else that I've used was, and I've used them for image search for any kind, like for PowerPoints and things like that. But also, I mean, this is kind of professional, but it's also kind of personal, I guess. I have hired graphic designers to design logos, but also like one of the people that worked for me, she had this major faux pas once, and we laughed about it. And as her anniversary gift, I had them make a graphic, which then I then put onto a t-shirt. There are quotes that I have that I have had them make and put onto a t-shirt. So it's, things like that for your business. If you have or for your clients, that is really easy to do as well. Oh, just research clients in general. I have used them to comb LinkedIn and find me 50 people in Salt Lake City that are, interested in X and, work for this size company because I'm going to be going out there and I want to be able to network and, whatever. So I have outsourced from a work perspective to do that as well. And so if you're a manager and you have a sales team, or maybe you manage because I worked in clinical research, and so we worked with a lot of doctors. I mean, that is a way, use somebody that loves data, and that's all they love. I mean, I hired this guy that his joy was to comb LinkedIn and find certain people that fit a certain profile. Like, he loved it. He felt like a detective.
Uh-huh.
And so, that's what we used him for. He loved it.
Yes. And when we're talking about professionally, we talked about, if you haven't, again, I have the calculator that'll tell you what your work time is worth per hour and what your personal time is worth per hour. It'll give you an estimate. But that number is an easy way to then go to your boss and say, look, boss, my time is worth $50 an hour, $30 an hour, 25, 15, whatever it is. And I found a solution that does that for me that only costs this much money. There's two things in that conversation with the boss. First, show them that it's cheaper for you to get it done somewhere else. So they just need to let you get it done. But the second thing is remind them of the more valuable thing that you also need to do that you can't do because you got too much on your plate. Remind them of those things that you would rather be doing. So let me outsource this so I can do more of that. And any of those tasks that contribute to the bottom line or add to the customer experience or things that are going to improve and the long-term things that move the business forward that are more valuable, especially if you bring that into that conversation, that conversation with your boss will often go much smoother. And you'll probably get more yeses if you paint that picture on those two things. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that could work sometimes. But I bet someone out there is thinking like, oh, my boss would never go for that. And here's what I have found in the last 11 years. And this used to be me when I worked for a company. So I'm not dissing anybody out there because this was me. I'm not going to spend even though it would have saved me time. I could have, I was making six figures over 10 years ago, working for a company. And I was like, I would not pay somebody $20 an hour, or I would not pay somebody $50 to do X for me. The company should pay for that. And if the company doesn't pay for it, like you're saying that, well, I'm not going to pay, I shouldn't have to pay for that. But what you're giving up, it's hurting you because you're spending that time, you're wasting that time. Maybe what you would get is 2 hours less work on a Friday, or an hour less work every day. And it's interesting to me because business owners and small businesses will hire me, and they, somebody could be making $70,000 a year or $150,000 a year or $250,000 a year. And the person who is the business owner making $70,000 a year, they're more likely to hire me, and I'm not cheap, than the person who works for a company making $250,000 a year because they expect their company to pay for it all the time. And it's just really interesting, the mindset of a business owner versus making hardly any money, because they see it as an investment.
Yes.
And somebody from a company also see almost, they see it as an expense. And if their company's not paying for it, they're not going to. I want you to, if you work for a company, don't think of it that way anymore. Think of it as an investment, and you will get it back with your time, with your energy. Maybe you will get promoted faster. And again, this used to be me. Like, I felt like I'm not going to pay for that conference. My company should pay for that conference. They're not going to. Well, then I just won't go. Like it was punishing them, So think about it as an investment in yourself.
Totally. I could tell that we would go on and on and on in this one. And I want to leave you listening with it. Marcey and I both, if you or your business or any of this, if this is an area that you think is an opportunity, both of us, Marcey, we could come up with a 2-pack where they can get both of us to come in and do a session, I'm sure. But even the different perspectives on just the way she looks at it, I've gotten so much out of talking with her just because I have my own business and thoughts about this. But man, the different perspectives, hearing different people's opinions often helps move the needle a little bit more when you hear it from more than one person. So I say that because, Marcey, I want to start to bring us, kind of wrap us here, because we've been going and I know we could keep going. What I want to ask you is, Marcey, what advice would you give to someone who's just starting out outsourcing, who hasn't done a lot of this or any of this? What would you say to them?
If it's from a work perspective, fix something that it's okay if it breaks. And by that, I mean, don't outsource something professionally that if somebody screwed it up, it could be disastrous. From a personal perspective, think of one thing that you just procrastinate on all the time and you just don't want to do it. And instead of feeling like a failure every day, because every day that you procrastinate and you move that task forward, I'll clean the gutters tomorrow, I'll clean the gutters tomorrow, I'll clean the gutters tomorrow. Every day that just makes you feel like I failed today, I failed again, just outsource it.
Yes. Preach, sister. Yes, I love it. For me, the two, I got 3 pieces of advice for you if you've never done it. First, start with the free or the inexpensive opportunities. So I talked about errands, how it only costs like $5 to get stuff delivered. Or like, I remember when I used to order pizza and it was like $3.50 for delivery, or you could go pick it up. And my younger self was like, I'm not paying your $3.50. I'm going to go pick it up. And like, oh my God, it took 45 minutes. And inevitably there was a line when I got there. And like, oh my God, $3.50. Please try the free or inexpensive options.
And you didn't have the heat thing that they drove to your house with the pizza in.
Right.
So by the time you got home, it was cold.
It was cold. Yes. See that totally. So that's the first thing, is start with free or inexpensive options. And I will say the second thing is there's 2. Here's my top 2 indicators for the best opportunities for you. The first one is if it's something that you repeat multiple times. What are the ones that you do so many times? That's going to be a great place to start. So like for me, going to the store was 5 times per week, and that was 7 hours. That was a really big opportunity for me. So I started there. That's where I started, was figuring that out. And if it's not the repeating things, or if the biggest difference in your time's worth versus the cost. So again, we go back to the store thing again. In the store example, it was free, or it was like $5 to get the groceries delivered. Nobody was doing this until COVID happened. And now everybody's hip to the grocery game. But man, I used to pay the $10 to get the delivery charge back in like 2014, but it saved me so much time. Like the difference between how much of my time and how much that was worth versus the groceries, that's a huge opportunity. So look at that one. And my last one, please give yourself grace. And what I mean by that is the first time you do it, you're going to screw it up. It might not go as planned. It might not go perfectly. They're going to bring you the wrong fruit that's not quite ripe. They're going to do something wrong. There's going to be something that isn't quite right. And give yourself grace in that. Try it 2, 3, 4 times before. Don't just, because it didn't work the first time, doesn't mean that you can't do it. It just means that you might need to learn a little bit more about how it works to get better at it. But stick with it. Please do not give up on it. So, Marcey, my last question is, what does this mean for you personally? You and I both talk about this, and we were like, oh, we could do this episode. And you and I both were like, yes, I would love to talk. So what does this mean for you? What's it mean to Marcey?
I hope that, you listening will be inspired by one of the things that we've talked about. And, write to Brian, find me on LinkedIn, write to me and just say, I tried this. And, maybe it was out of your comfort zone, but just that you tried one thing to either save yourself time, energy, money, your relationship, your health, because all that is more important.
God, so true. You talked about your story, Marcey. For me personally, I'm passionate about this because I was diagnosed with diabetes at age 4. And I remember sitting in the doctor's office and finding out that my life expectancy was 10 to 20 years less than everyone else. So I've always operated with this idea that I'm not going to have this long retirement. So I need to live it up now. So I got really good with the time stuff because I want to live now. I don't want to wait till retirement to do all the good stuff. I want to do it now. And so that's the why for me. And so to Marcey's point, try once, give it one, try one, give it a try, see how it goes. If nothing else, it's going to be a story. And then you can send this episode to your friends and talk smack and say, you know what? I tried what they said and it didn't work. And then you and your friends can laugh about it. And we still added to your life with some humor, if nothing else, because now you got a funny story. So,
yeah, because I have a story of one Brussels sprout.
Right? Totally. Oh my God. I really, if you have that picture, Marcey, send it to me.
Oh, I'll send it to you.
I want the picture. Check if you might have to go to the actual link. I don't know if it'll show up in the episode notes. You can't get pictures in there, but in the actual link on my website, I'm going to give you the one Brussels sprout picture so that you can see this because man, that's just funny. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, Marcey, here's what I love that you've like gone all in and you wrote books and you're all about this topic of like how to be more productive and outsource. And I just love that you are so committed to sharing this stuff and that you're willing to come on the show and just share all the things that we talked about. Man, this is so helpful. So thank you very much for coming and being on the show today. This has been awesome.
Oh, this was super fun. I love talking about this. Thanks, Brian.
And for those folks who want to keep in touch with you or check in with you later, what's the best way for them to keep in touch?
Well, I'm only on LinkedIn, so they can find me there. My website is helloraderco.com, or they can check out my new book, Reclaim Your Workday, Sustainable Productivity Strategies for the New World of Work. And it has 8 chapters, and they cover email and chat tools, meetings, remote work, vacation and time off, and healthy habits, and so on. But the productivity tips and strategies are actually separated by individual contributor, manager, and C-suite business owner. So they can find the specific level for them and incorporate a new productivity strategy or two.
Man, and I love that too, because even if you pick up that book now and then you get promoted over the years, like even as you get promoted into manager, you are still an individual contributor. So
yes,
even if you just start with the first base layer, then when you move up, you're now going to get the base layer still applies plus the next layer. And then when you get promoted again, because I hope you still keep in touch with Marcey and I when you're some badass C-suite person way later. And like I hope you're still that. Totally. All the levels, yes. Man. So I'll include all those links. Check your episode notes. That'll be in here, but thank you very much. Thanks. I appreciate that, Marcey.
Thank you.
And for you tuning in, do you have a friend or colleague who you've talked about the outsourcing thing with, whether it's at work where you wanted to outsource something and they wouldn't let you, or if it's a coworker, or maybe it's a friend and you've toyed with grocery delivery horror stories? Would you share the link to this episode specifically with them? Because I know Marcey and I would love to know that our conversation today touched people that are actually facing this right now. So a few texts back and forth with you is, even if it's just for a laugh or something, is going to mean so much and fill up both of your cups so much if you'll do that. So, and I know Marcey and I would just love to know that you shared this and we helped make that happen. Whether you've joined my membership and you've taken the first step of joining the email list, or even if this is just your very first Productivity Gladiator episode, I love sharing Productivity Gladiator with you, because together, these productivity skills are going to change your life. That's a wrap.
Productivity. Gladiator.